He was already sitting when I walked in. Same smirk, same watch, same damn posture like the chair belonged to him more than the cafe did. I almost turned around and walked right out. My name's Aaron. I'm 34. I live in Atlanta. It had been 6 years since I'd seen Marcus in person. He used to be my mentor. Now he was a senior VP in the same company, while I was still climbing project by project, title by title. Mid-level, mid-pay, mid-respect. I nodded at him, slid into the seat across. Marcus? Aaron, he said, all charm and false warmth. Didn't think you'd say yes. I shrugged. Figured it'd be good to catch up. It's been a while. He waved at the barista, ordered a black coffee like it was a damn ritual. Then he looked back at me, all relaxed like this wasn't awkward as hell. I've been hearing your name more lately, he said. Word is you've been doing solid work on the green tech builds. I kept my smile tight. Yeah, I've had a good run the past couple years. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. He leaned back. Not bad. Honestly, most people don't last that long in this business, especially women. Not many make it to the top. You know how it is. I froze. That line, I remembered it. He'd said almost the exact same thing to me years ago in that glass office of his, after I told him I wanted to lead a division one day. Not many women stay in long enough to get there, Aaron. You've got to be realistic. I was 27 then. I swallowed the insult, smiled, nodded. I did the same thing now. Some of us do okay, I said, even without shortcuts. He gave a small chuckle, like he missed the jab completely, or ignored it. No doubt. But still, it's rare. I've seen people burn out trying. I wanted to throw my coffee in his face, but instead I glanced at my watch. I've got a meeting in 30, so I should head out soon. Oh, of course. He didn't move. We should do this again sometime. Talk more seriously. I stood up. Maybe. I walked out before he could add anything else. I didn't let him see it, but the comment hit, just like it did the first time. Only difference now? I'd made it past every ceiling he thought would stop me. I'd worked twice as hard, taken twice the crap, and I was still standing. Still climbing. But damn if I didn't want to punch something. I was still steaming from that cafe meeting when the email came through. Subject line, opportunity to connect. I almost deleted it without reading. Thought it was just another networking blast. But then I saw the sender, Melinda Jacobs, VP at Hartwell Properties, the competition. I clicked it. She didn't waste time, said she'd followed my work on green tech, wanted to set up a meeting to discuss a leadership opportunity. Leadership. That wasn't a word people casually threw at me. Not in this company, not with Peter still dangling promises like carrots on a stick. I met with her that Friday. Private office, glass walls, big desk, no fluff. We're restructuring, she said, folding her hands. We need someone who can take over senior project operations. You'd be leading a portfolio double the size of what you're handling now. Salaries competitive, full autonomy. I didn't react, just nodded, though my heart was kicking like hell. Why me? Because I've seen your numbers? You deliver. And frankly, we need someone with grit who doesn't wait around for permission. I left with a folder and a head full of noise. That Monday, I sat down with Peter. Just the two of us in his office. Same stale coffee smell, same lazy jazz playing low in the background. I wanted to ask where things stand, I said. I've taken on 3 new accounts this quarter. My teams are performing, clients are happy. Is the senior manager role still on the table? Peter leaned back like he always did, folding his hands behind his head like that made him wise. You're definitely being considered. Considered, I repeated. So nothing confirmed. We're still reviewing things. There are a few moving parts, but you're a strong candidate. That's corporate for don't hold your breath. Back at my desk, I stared at Melinda's folder for hours. My inbox buzzed with useless updates while I kept circling the same question. Was I playing it safe or just scared? That night, I met Sarah at our usual spot, cheap sushi and 2-for-1 drinks. She knew something was up the second I sat down. You look like someone's been sitting on a grenade all day. I slid the folder to her across the table. She flipped through the pages, eyes wide. Holy crap, Aaron. This is a real offer, like real. Yeah, but it's a risk. New company, new people. I'd be walking into something totally unknown. She gave me that look, half pity, half push. You're the one who always said you'd rather jump than rot. Rotting's safe, I muttered, swirling my drink. She leaned in. Do you want to stay where you're tolerated or go somewhere you're wanted. I didn't answer. All the way home, that line stuck with me. I couldn't shake it. It dragged me back to that conversation with Marcus in his office years ago. I had just pitched a plan to revamp our outdated logistics. He'd smiled and said, "Aaron, you've got ideas, sure. But women usually don't have the staying power to see things through at this level. It's just the way the game's built." I remember the heat crawling up my neck, the way I thanked him anyway, like a damn fool. "Number not this time." I called Melinda the next morning. "I'm in," I said. "When do I start?" There was a pause, half a beat, and then her voice cracked into a grin. That's what I was hoping to hear. I hung up, heart pounding, palms sweating. My resignation would go in that afternoon. Peter could keep his maybe. Marcus could keep his doubts. I didn't need their timelines. I'd make my own. I sent the resignation to Peter at noon. By 4, security had deactivated my badge. That was the kind of loyalty this industry ran on. Day 1 at Hartwell hit me like a slap. The office was sleek, cold, full of glass and polished concrete. People shook my hand like they were checking for a pulse. No one said welcome. No one offered to grab coffee. I was introduced as Aaron Carter, our new senior ops lead on the Eastern Development portfolio. That was it. The smiles didn't reach their eyes. Greg, my new manager, gave me a pat on the shoulder like I was a damn intern. "You're stepping into a big role here," he said. "Lot of eyes on this project. Let's see how you handle it." I nodded, said nothing. The project was massive, 60 acres in DeKalb County, mixed-use build, tight deadlines, insane zoning issues. My team was 6 people, most of them younger, one guy older than me who clearly didn't think much of my title. In the first meeting, I laid out a high-level timeline. Budget issues, I had 3 contingencies, vendor conflicts. I'd already looped in 2 backups. Greg nodded along, then turned to Jake, one of my junior engineers. "That's solid. Nice work pulling that together, Jake." Jake blinked. Aaron, actually?" Greg cut him off. "Still, good to see the team clicking already." It didn't stop there. Every time I presented something, Greg redirected credit. Every time I pushed an initiative, someone else got the praise. I didn't call it out, not yet. I just worked harder. I got in at 6:30, left after 8. I called vendors directly, managed 2 feuding contractors, fixed a screw-up in the site prep schedule before it hit the board. I didn't whine. I didn't slow down. But the silence from my team said everything. Some of them avoided eye contact. Others clearly thought I'd skipped the line. I heard whispers, Melinda's pick, fast-tracked, diversity checkbox. None of it surprised me. But that didn't mean it didn't piss me off. 3 weeks in, I walked into a leadership sink. Greg sat at the head of the table like a king with a dry erase sword. Everyone gave project updates. When it got to me, I walked them through the rollout plan I'd finalized. Timeline, budget pivots, supplier alternates. When I finished, Greg leaned back, smirked, and said, "You're not like other women in this field. You might just make it." The room went quiet. I stared at him, my jaw locked. My hand stayed still on the table, but my nails dug into my palm. "Say something. Stand up." Slam the damn folder in his face. Instead, I smiled, tight, controlled. "I'll make it," I said. "That's not the question," he nodded, oblivious or pretending. When the meeting ended, I walked straight to my office, shut the door, and let out a breath so sharp it felt like a blade slicing out of my ribs. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stared out the window, then sat down and opened my laptop. There was too much work to do, too many people waiting to see me fail. I met with my team the next morning and laid out the next sprint, delegated clearly, asked for feedback, made sure the junior analysts knew I had their backs. I kept my tone sharp but steady, no fluff, no fear. That week, I stayed on site during a concrete pour delay and fixed the logistics myself. I skipped 3 meals in 1 day. Didn't matter. Progress was progress. One of the junior designers stopped me in the stairwell a few days later. "Hey, just wanted to say, I didn't think this project would hold together after week 2, but it's starting to feel like we're getting somewhere." I nodded. "We are. Stay sharp. No speeches, no gratitude, just work." If Greg wanted to keep feeding me backhanded compliments, let him. I wasn't here to be liked. I was here to deliver. And when it came time for results, no one would have a choice but to say my name. The call came during a site check. My phone buzzed 3 times in my pocket before I stepped outside. It was my sister. "Mom's sick," she said. "Stage 2 breast cancer. She didn't want us to worry, but it's moving fast." I didn't hear half of what came next. Just static in my chest and a long, hollow ringing in my ears. I walked straight into Greg's office, dust still on my boots. I'm taking compassionate leave. He blinked. For how long? Don't know. A few weeks, maybe more. He hesitated. Well, the team's in the middle of. I know. They'll manage. I left that afternoon, drove 5 hours straight to Macon, barely stopping for gas. Mom was on the couch when I got there, thinner than I remembered. Chemo had just started. She smiled anyway, like nothing to see here. Keep walking. Don't look at me like I'm dying, she said. I just feel like crap, that's all. I sat next to her, hugged her tighter than I ever had. The days bled together. Hospital runs, bland meals, lukewarm coffee. I barely opened my laptop. Every time I tried to check in with the team, I ended up closing the screen. Work felt like another world, a world I wasn't sure I belonged in anymore. At night, I'd sit in the guest room and stare at the ceiling fan. Couldn't stop thinking about how much I'd shoved down to get where I was. How many meetings I'd walked out of feeling like I was playing a game I wasn't built for. It had always been me against the old boys club. Every win felt borrowed. Every step up felt like I'd snuck in the back door. You look like you're carrying 100 pounds, Mom said one evening, sitting up slow with a blanket wrapped around her. I didn't deny it. She looked at me the same way she used to when I scraped my knees on the pavement. Calm, sharp, no nonsense. You've always been strong, Erin. Even when people didn't see it. Don't start questioning that now. I shook my head. I just don't know if it's enough. It's not about being enough. It's about not letting other people decide if you are. That one landed hard. She reached over, grabbed my hand. You don't have to fight them to prove something. Just be who you are. That's the whole damn battle. I didn't say anything, just squeezed her hand back. A week later, after her second round of treatment, she finally slept through the night. That morning, I packed my bag and headed out early. She didn't need me hovering anymore. She needed to rest. Back in Atlanta, I walked into the office quieter, slower. But something felt clearer. The noise in my head had dimmed. The pressure hadn't gone anywhere. But now it didn't own me. I wasn't just pushing for titles or pride or to shut people like Marcus or Greg up. I was doing this for the people who never asked me to change, for the ones who believed in me when no one else did. I opened my calendar, clicked back into the project plan, and started building the next sprint from scratch. Time to get back to work. 2 days after I got back, Melinda dropped the next monster on my desk. City Council just approved a redevelopment plan for Eastgate. We're taking point. Eastgate was a neglected part of the city. Rundown properties, high vacancy, decades of bad politics. No one wanted to touch it. I looked up. You want us to build out there? We're not just building. We're leading the whole master plan. Mixed income housing, retail, transit upgrades, and you're heading it. My heart kicked, but I kept my voice steady. When's the board review? 6 weeks. 6 weeks to untangle zoning permits, redesign community infrastructure, and somehow convince half the board we weren't lighting money on fire. I closed the door behind her and got to work. Week 1 was hell. Budget constraints hit hard. Local reps kept dodging my calls. The construction lead threatened to walk over contractor delays. And Greg, still hovering like a mosquito. He'd show up in status meetings, arms crossed, tossing out comments like, "That's ambitious," or, "You sure the community's going to buy into this?" I didn't flinch. Every problem had a counter. I slashed budget fat, pulled in a grant specialist, brought in a rep from the local community council to sit in on design sessions. If someone dragged their feet, I walked around them. Greg still tried to play it down. One afternoon, after I'd finalized a tax incentive strategy with our legal team, he stepped into my office uninvited. "You're moving fast, maybe too fast." I didn't even look up. "You want this project to stall or succeed?" He didn't answer. He just walked out like he'd been swatted away. By week 5, my team was running like a machine. Everyone was locked in, focused. The design was solid, permits lined up, and even the community board gave us a cautious green light. The night before the board presentation, I stayed in the office until 10. Not because I had to, but because I wanted everything airtight. Every number, every render, every slide. Bulletproof. The next morning, I stepped into that conference room with a full deck and zero hesitation. Greg sat near the end of the table, arms folded, same tight jaw he always wore when someone else had the mic. I walked the board through every phase: design, budget strategy, political alignment, long-term ROI. They didn't interrupt. They didn't have to. When I finished, Melinda nodded and turned to the board. Questions? One of the older members leaned forward. This is the cleanest proposal we've seen in 3 quarters. Well done. I heard a few others murmur agreement. And then Greg, silent the whole time, cleared his throat. I'll admit, when this was first pitched, I wasn't sure we had the right lead for it. But Aaron's pulled it together. Results speak for themselves. He didn't look at me. Coward. Melinda smiled. They do. Which is why we're offering Aaron the Southeast Regional Portfolio. Full oversight. I didn't let myself exhale until after the room cleared. My team came by later, clapping me on the back, throwing out jokes. One of them even bought donuts. Greg never said another word to me that day. I went back to my office, closed the door, and stared out the window. It wasn't pride I felt. Not exactly. It was weight. Like something I'd carried for too long finally cracked off my back. I hadn't just survived. I'd done the thing people like Marcus said I couldn't. People like Greg tried to downplay. I hadn't outtalked anyone. I'd outworked them, outplanned them, outlasted the politics. And now they had to say my name with respect. Bittersweet wasn't even the word for it. I was still at my desk, the hum of the office slowing down as people trickled out, when my phone lit up. Marcus Halden. Congrats, looks like you made it. Don't let it get to your head. That was it. No period, no emoji, not even a damn space for sincerity. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. I could have fired back a sarcastic thanks or still waiting on yours. But the truth was, I didn't owe him a damn thing. Same old Marcus, acting like success was a fluke I should be careful not to enjoy too much. It was exactly the kind of message he used to send back when I worked under him. I'd close a deal or land a big account, and he'd say something like, "Don't burn out chasing things you're not built for." Then he'd smile like it was advice, not a put down. But this time, it didn't land the way he wanted. I didn't feel crushed. Just done. Like the rope tying me to his opinion finally snapped. I set the phone down face first and didn't touch it again for the rest of the night. I sat back in my chair, arms crossed over my chest. Outside the window, the city lights bled through the glass, sharp and loud, like they had something to prove. Same as me once. It hit me how long I'd been fighting the same fight. Different offices, different bosses, same uphill battle just to be seen as capable. Not special, not some outlier, just capable. When Marcus told me women didn't have staying power, I believed it was my job to prove him wrong. When Peter fed me maybes, I worked longer hours. When Greg ignored my results, I made them undeniable. I spent years trying to earn approval from men who never planned to give it. And now I'd built something so solid they couldn't ignore it even if they wanted to. Not because I was lucky, not because someone took a chance on me, but because I'd been doing the work all along, even when they called it ambition like it was a bad word. I thought back to the night I accepted the Hartwell offer. I remember how scared I was, of failure, of being wrong, of giving them more ammo to say I wasn't ready. I wasn't scared anymore. Marcus could keep his cheap little text, his passive congratulations, his stale arrogance. He hadn't built what I had. He hadn't stayed up late with spreadsheets and busted contracts. He hadn't dealt with contractors, politics, egos, and still come out with results that no one could argue with. I wasn't just managing projects. I was leading. My team trusted me. The board respected me. My work stood on its own. I deleted the message without responding. Then I got up, grabbed my coat, and turned off the lights in my office. Let him wonder what I thought. Let him sit with the silence. Because I finally understood something. His approval never meant anything, and now it meant even less. The invitation came through HR, subject line, Annual Leadership Recognition Ceremony, Honoree Notification. I rolled my eyes at the formality, but when I opened it, there was my name at the top of the honoree list. Outstanding Leadership in Regional Development. Melinda followed up 10 minutes later. You'll need to prepare a short speech, she said. 2 to 3 minutes. Keep it clean. They're recording it. Noted. The ceremony was at a downtown hotel ballroom, overdone chandeliers, thick carpets, and way too much perfume in the air. I wore a plain black dress and heels. I regretted the second I stepped out of the car. I saw Greg near the stage talking to someone from finance. He gave me a nod when he noticed me. Nothing dramatic, just a nod. But that was more than I'd ever gotten from him. Most of the newer execs came up to shake my hand. A couple from the Eastgate team gave me half hugs and said, "About time." I even spotted a few old colleagues from my last firm, guys who hadn't spoken to me since I left. They didn't say anything, but I saw the quick glances, the silent recognition. They knew. We sat through an hour of speeches, some dull, some self-important, and then it was my turn. I walked up to the mic with my note card in my hand but didn't look at it once. I'm not big on speeches, so I'll keep this short, I said. When I started in this field, I thought the work would speak for itself. It doesn't, at least not at first. There was a ripple of chuckles. What gets you through is the team. The people who show up every day ready to solve problems, deal with chaos, and still push for better. I've been lucky to work with some of the toughest, smartest, most driven people in the business. This isn't my win, it's ours. Thank you, Simple. Director, no tears, no inspirational cliches. Applause followed, loud enough to feel real. I stepped down without looking at anyone in particular, just made my way back to the table. Greg gave me another nod, a little slower this time. Well said. I just said, thanks, and kept walking. Melinda caught me by the arm before I could slip out. You're not staying for the drinks? I shook my head. You know I'm not good at standing around pretending to be impressed by people who've never done field work. She laughed. Fair enough. I made it halfway through the lobby before I noticed the two guys from my old department, Tom and Brett. They were off to the side, not talking, just watching me walk by. I didn't stop, but I saw it. That look, that quiet understanding. They knew they'd watched me climb and doubted every rung. And now I'd cleared the ladder they were still standing on. That was enough. Outside, the air was cooler than I expected. I pulled off the heels, carried them in one hand, and walked barefoot down the sidewalk toward the parking garage. I didn't need a toast. I didn't need a photo op. I had the title. I had the results. And now, finally, I had the respect. Let them keep their spotlight. I had things to build. 2 weeks after the ceremony, I flew to New York for a national real estate summit. 3 days of panels, egos, and overpriced catering. I wasn't there to mingle. I was presenting a case study on Eastgate for a room full of execs who still thought revitalization meant putting in a Whole Foods and walking away. The ballroom was packed. I hit every point, kept the tone sharp, made sure no one left with the impression this was luck. It was strategy, execution, grit. When it wrapped, people came up to shake my hand. I gave the polite nods, answered a few questions, and started toward the elevators. That's when I saw him. Marcus. He was standing near the bar, talking to someone I didn't recognize, but his eyes were on me the second I stepped into view. I stopped. Part of me wanted to keep walking. The rest of me, well, it didn't. He broke away from the conversation and walked over. Same walk, a little slower now, less swagger. Aaron? Marcus. He gave a half smile, hands in his pockets. Didn't expect to see you here. Guess that makes 2 of us. He looked around, then back at me. Caught your presentation. Impressive stuff. Sharp delivery. I didn't answer. He cleared his throat. I never thought you'd make it this far. But you did. I'll give you that. There it was. Not exactly an apology, but the closest I'd ever get. Yeah, I said. You told me women don't usually have staying power, that we burn out before we get to the top. He winced, just a little. I remember. You said I should be realistic. Play within my lane. Wait my turn. I did, he admitted, and I was wrong. I watched him closely. No sarcasm in his tone, no smirk, just a man standing in front of a truth he couldn't dodge anymore. I used to think the system just was what it was, he said, that certain people made it and others didn't. I didn't realize how much harder some had to fight just to get in the room. I crossed my arms. And you didn't help. No, he said. I didn't. We stood there for a moment. No crowd, no audience. Just him and me in the corner of a ballroom that had once felt so far out of reach. I'm not looking for forgiveness, he said. But I figured I owed you the acknowledgement. You owe me nothing, I said, because I stopped chasing your approval a long time ago. He nodded, quiet, almost relieved. I respect what you've done, he said. Truly. I gave him a tight smile. That's good, but I didn't do it for your respect. I did it in spite of it. Then I turned and walked toward the escalator, heels clicking steady on the tile. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel smug. I just felt done. His voice didn't follow me. And for once, that was exactly how I wanted it. I got back to Atlanta late that Sunday night, shoved my suitcase in the corner of the office, and sat down at my desk before sunrise. The city was still half asleep, just a few headlights blinking through the glass. I sipped my coffee slow, stared out at the skyline I used to dream about from a cubicle. I wasn't chasing anything anymore. I'd already caught it. No fanfare. No applause. Just peace. The inbox was quiet. The desk was clean. I leaned back, arms crossed behind my head, and let it settle in for the first time. This place, this role, this weight I'd carried for years finally lifting. Mom was in remission now. Her last scan had come back clear. She'd told me not to fuss over it, said she had groceries to buy and a backyard to weed. Same fire in her voice as always. That strength, quiet, constant, real. I'd carried it with me every damn day. Through Marcus, through Greg, through every boardroom where I had to talk twice as loud to get half as far. The phone rang. Sarah, I said, smiling before I even answered. What's up? She didn't waste time. You're not going to believe this, but remember that new associate I mentioned? Jenna? Yeah, the one who asked about the Eastgate rollout. She's been asking a lot more lately. About how you handled the vendors, the zoning fights, even the internal politics. She's taking notes like she's building her own damn playbook. I laughed. Smart girl. She told me last week, and I quote, "If Aaron Carter can pull that off, I know I can figure this out." That hit harder than I expected, not in a loud way, just deep. You built more than a project, Aaron, Sarah said. You set a bar. I didn't say anything right away. Anyway, she added, thought you should know. Someone's watching and learning. We hung up a minute later, no long goodbye. We didn't need one. I stood, walked to the window, and looked out again. The streets were busy now, real life rolling in. This wasn't the end of the climb, but I wasn't at the bottom anymore either. I'd earned this view, and I wasn't standing here alone.